So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and share the presentation, but I would like to say bienvenue, welcome, or I guess that's my French coming out. Doing too many things at one time. Bienvenido a la clase de español. We have already gone around a little bit and talked about whether or not each of us has prior experience learning Spanish. So I'd kind of like to get, I think we've talked to most of the group, but Lily, do you have any prior experience learning Spanish? Or is this your first time?
I've been working on learning Spanish in schoolwork, but I finished up the course already.
Okay, cool. So just an introduction to Spanish then. Perfect. Perfect. Lola, what about you?
I still do Spanish, so yeah, I'm learning Spanish.
Okay, awesome. Good. So it seems like most people have at least been somewhat exposed to beginner Spanish or in some form, whether it's through family or formal lessons, whatever. But what we wanted to do, because I think, one of there's a lot of benefit to at least being exposed to, even if you don't become fluent, being exposed to thinking in a different language, speaking a different language, reading, being able to read different languages. I've taken multiple trips outside of the United States, and even some inside the United States, where the little bit of formal training that I took in grade school and high school in Spanish has come in very helpful. And not only from a learning perspective and broadening your horizons a little bit, learning more about different cultures and languages, but more from a being able to conversate with people. There are many people in the US who are native Spanish speakers and are English second language. And I have found, it's been my experience, that they are mostly very willing to communicate if you believe you can have a conversation with them in Spanish. And sometimes it's appreciated. It goes a long way into bridging language barriers if you show that you're willing to understand, their native language. So, and it's fun, right? Being able to learn and speak a different language is useful and fun, because you get to be a beginner again. You get to go start back from the beginning and relate it to something and practice it. So there'll be no judgment here. We're going to take it real slow. We're going to start with the basics, including the alphabet, but we're going to do a lot of practice. Miss Senora Miriam, you may agree that having worked with several native Spanish speakers, it was impressed upon me the importance of pronunciation. How you speak is almost more important, I would say, than the technical aspects of it. So the accent is everything, is what I was told. It can make you understandable, or can make folks not really be able to understand you. Kind of like a deep country accent from Mississippi is kind of what I think about it. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I mean, coming to Texas, I've met a lot of people. I mean, it's a melting pot from all over the world, and I actually enjoy the accents. So sometimes I don't understand, but I just love, that accent, whether it's from South America, Central America, Africa. It's been an amazing thing to experience it here in Texas. In California, at least where we live, there wasn't a lot of diversity. So it was just English. In fact, when we moved to Texas, my kids went to public school for about a year, and it was a bilingual school. And Damien, on the first day of school, was like, "Mom, they speak your language at the school," because he really never heard Spanish in California. But I used to try to infuse it and inject it at home. So it's a great place to at least have the basics. And I think, especially here in Texas, I don't know about Canada, but it's a good place to just practice and just talk to people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are several folks that I work with when we were in Houston, there on campus who were Spanish primary. And at lunch, we would go have lunch and they would invited me to practice Spanish with them because they are used to having to speak English in a business environment. So when they were on their lunch break and just wanted to be more relaxed, they would speak Spanish. And I just happened to know that there were two of them having lunch together and asked if I could tag along and practice. And they were more than happy to have me along. So
That's awesome.
yeah. With that in mind, like if you can think back to how you learned English in elementary school, in preschool, when your parents began teaching you the technical aspects of the language, you probably started with something like the alphabet, how the letters looked, and the sounds they made. I think Miss Tara may touch on this in some of her English origins lessons, but to me, the simplest form of writing is really just it's symbols, right? Letters in any language written down are just symbols that we associate with sounds. And that starts from when we're children, right? We mimic the sounds we hear others make, and we're taught what those sounds mean. Once we're a little bit older and we get into school, we're shown how to write those symbols and associate them with the sounds. So Spanish is no different. So we're going to start very similarly to how I remember learning English, and it's actually the way I was taught to learn Spanish, besides general greetings, like we've heard. So there are a lot of similarities between the Spanish alphabet and the English alphabet. Something else you'll probably hear in Miss Tara's origins class, but there are a few other letters and the pronunciations are slightly different. One of the good things I found when learning Spanish is that the pronunciation of the letters, though it varies, like Senora Miriam said, with where the Spanish speaker may be from, their particular dialect, like Spain versus Mexico, and even within Mexico, there are multiple dialects. So some may be pronounced a little bit different. I think what I'm approaching is more of a South American Spanish, like Mexico, Central America-ish, within reason. It's what I was taught in school. But most of the letters sound exactly the same or make the same sounds regardless of how they appear in a word, with some exceptions, and we'll see those. But most of the time, an A or A will be pronounced A in any way it's written. Whereas in English, you would have a long A, a short A, a Southern A, a Northern A, a Canadian A. You have multiple ways to pronounce the same letter or the same word that make it a bit confusing, but Spanish is easier to me in that regard. So what we'll do is I'll read a letter and give you a pronunciation. And what I would like you to do is give that back to me, just like you learn the alphabet. We'll say A, I say A, I'll tell you the pronunciation in Spanish, and then I want you to give me the Spanish pronunciation back. So you can start to get these in your memory. So when you begin to read words, you say them in more of a Spanish accent than you do an English accent. Does everybody understand? Okay, cool. Mike, mute off. I want to hear all your voices when we do this, because practicing how to say it, just like you practice learning how to talk, making the sounds takes time and takes practice, right? So if pronunciation is key, you have to practice the pronunciation. So starting at the top with letter A. The letter A in Spanish is pronounced A, as you can see it phonetically spelled out below. So A, A.
Ah.
Gracias, señor Mary. B is B.
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 It's written out B-E-H, be.
B.
Okay. C, se.
C.
Se. Very good. Here's one we have in English, but it's not a standalone letter. It's just a combination. CH is pronounced che.
Che.
Very good. D, de.
D.
E, e.
E.
F, F,
F.
F, muy bien. H, H,
H.
Okay, you
Gotcha.
forgot G, Mike.
You forgot G.
oh,
Yeah.
the video. I'm
Dios
watching everybody
mío.
videos that made them for me.
I noticed that.
Lo siento, por favor.
Hey.
Yeah. G, he. Thank you.
He.
Hey. It's not J.
No, it is not. 1 second. I need to move my video screen a little bit. Here we go. Let's see if that works. Not really, but we'll go with it. I think I know the rest of them from there. Okay. G, he,
He.
Okay.
H, H.
H.
Okay.
Here's one that'll trip you up. I is E.
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 Very good. I's are pronounced as E. J, Jota.
Jota.
Jota. Very good. Very good. Strong. A Jota. K is Ka.
Ka.
Ka. Very good. No German in this. No Ka. It's Ka.
Ka.
Very good. L is L.
L.
Very good. Here's a new one. L is Eye.
E.
A.
It's the double L's, 2 L's side by side. Capital or lowercase is Eye. Makes kind of a Y sound. M is M.
M.
N, N.
N.
And like you see in Senora Miriam's name and my own, the N with the tilde over the top, that thing's called the tilde, in English anyway, is Enye.
N.
So important to
Like the
differentiate
menu.
between the two. Enne, Enye.
When would you use the line in writing?
I think names.
Is it just names or other?
There's-
No, it appears in others.
Yeah,
I'm struggling to come up with an example, but
like niña, which is girl,
very
Or
good.
niño.
or niño. Mhm.
Exactamente.
Mhm.
Okay. It just no, it has a different sound. It has the Y sound in it. Enye, enne, enye. Okay. O is O.
Oh,
Oh. Oh.
P, pe.
P.
Hey.
Q is ku.
Cool.
R is ere.
R.
Here's a fun one. The double R's are ere.
R.
Did anybody have difficulty doing the
No.
the trilling with their tongue? Yeah.
R.
That's a fun one to sound because I have found that the more emphatic someone wants to pronounce it in Spanish, like a native speaker, they will lay down that double R, like they will make sure you hear it, right? It's almost like showing off, but it sounds fantastic because they have such control over it. So ere is kind of just one little, it's the single R, just one little tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth, ere. The double R's, trill, ere.
R.
R.
Very good.
R.
Oh, muy bien, muy bien. There's no shame here, judgment. We're all learning. S is
Are they like those
ese.
teachers who will only talk to us in
Ese.
Spanish?
Essay.
Ese.
No, that ain't gonna be me. T is te.
Okay.
U is u.
Ooh.
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 V is ve.
Be.
This is where I think particular dialects come in. If the VE technically I was taught was ve, but it is also pronounced be with kind of a B at the front of it, more of a B sound.
Be.
They're almost
thing as B.
interchangeable. Almost, right? But it
Almost.
is, I have heard it pronounced ve with a V sound. Like if it's at the beginning of a word, it's more pronounced like a V. But if it's in the middle of a word, it can be like por favor, which is please. You can hear it por favor or por favor. It's sometimes pronounced both ways. So it's particular dialect comes into play, like how somebody will speak it. But with that in mind, where we say in English U and then W, in Spanish and in most other languages, actually, it's ve, and then for W, it's W, which means double V. W. That's right. Very good. X is X.
X.
Y, Y.
Egriega.
Try that one more time. E.
Egriega.
Remember, they give you the Spanish spelling of the word below and then the pronunciation. So the I's are E's. Y.
Egriega.
Muy bien. Muy bien. And Z is Zeta.
Zeta.
Zeta. Very good. All right. One more time from the top. Everybody got their tongues loosened up and they're ready to go. We're going to do it one more time from the top, a little bit faster. And we're only going to do them in Spanish. Okay, so everybody say them with me. A, B,
De.
C,
Se.
Che, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, Y, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Muy bien, muy bien. Applaud. Good job. It just takes practice. Does anybody want to try it on their own?
A, B, C, D, E, F, E, H, I, J, K, L, Y, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Muy bien, muy bien.
Can I also get
Bravo.
a shot?
Y.
Y.
Very good. Someone else volunteered?
I'll do it.
Absolutely, go for it.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, N, O, P, Q, R, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Muy bien, muy bien.
Somebody else wants to try.
Any other volunteers?
Damien.
Victoria And
And
I can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
Sorry.
Damien.
Victoria
I
and Damien?
yeah.
Go for it.
A, B, C, Č, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Perfecto, perfecto, Damian. Good job. Good job, buddy. We'll start each of the lessons with a review of this because the one thing that you'll find is it's very rhythmic. In fact, they'll teach you the alphabet song in Spanish, very similar to the one you learned in English, you know, A, B, C, D, E. You do the same thing. in
A, B, C, Ch, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M.
See, it's all, you can put it to the same tune, right? I can't carry a tune in a bucket, but those who can sing could, right? Muy bien, muy bien.
Okay.
So some of the exceptions, we wanted to provide this because, like I said, most of the vowels always sound the same way, but some of the consonants, depending on where they fall, kind of like English, they take a little bit different pronunciation, and there's some examples of each. I'm going to have to try to minimize my video window because I actually can't see the right side of my screen, but technical difficulties. We're not gonna study these in depth. You need to be aware of them because I think what you'll find is that through practicing different words, using common words, learning to read them, you'll pick up on when the pronunciations are different naturally, right? One of the ones that I have to go back and remind myself of are G's, because when you learn how to pronounce a G, hey, it changes. If you put it in front of a like another consonant, like in the example here, they use grape, or well, someone read me the example for the hard G, or a G coming before an A, O, or U.
Chris. Or Chris.
Gris is like gray. Gris is the color gray, or ganar, which is to play or to win, rather. But if it comes before an E or an I, like in gente, that means people. It has a soft G sound, or kind of just the way you learned it in the alphabet. Hey, more of an H sound. So there are some exceptions when the letters change how they're pronounced, especially like the double C. It's not a standalone letter, but you see if it's pronounced like a K, or maybe an S, or maybe like an X, depending on the circumstances. So I think what happens is when you see the words and you hear the pronunciation of them, you tend to memorize them, just like you do words in English. Like our silly rule about I before E except after C, and a lot of other exceptions. So on to some common rules. Like we talked about, the pronunciation dominates the accuracy with which you speak it. Accent is everything, and Spanish words have syllables, or can be broken up into syllables, just like in English. And sometimes there are accents placed in the words. It's just the little hash marks over the letter, and that word will tell you where to put the emphasis on which syllable, and it's really the one with the accent over it. So if you skip down to number 3, I start here because it's easier for me to remember. when there's an accent above a letter, you stress that syllable, regardless of the other two rules. So this is the one that never changes, right? If the word has an accent, whichever syllable it's over gets the stress, like jamón. Jamón is ham, if I'm not mistaken, like the pork that you eat, prepared ham. So instead of saying, if there were no accent, you would tend to pronounce it jamón, where the emphasis was on the front. But with the accent over the O, it tells you where to emphasize. So can everybody repeat jamón?
Amon.
Amon.
Very good.
Amon.
Muy bien. What about the second example they give?
Ayúdame.
Ayúdame.
Muy bien.
Ayúdame.
Who said that first?
Me.
Mm,
Who's is that Grace? I'm having,
Yeah.
I can't see.
It's great.
Muy bien, Grace. Very well done. Ayúdame. That means help me. Hopefully you
Ayúdame.
don't have to use that one too much, but. So the other rules, if we back up to number one, so take away from that, if it has an accent, that's where you put the inflection. That's where you put the emphasis when you pronounce the word, okay? So backing up to number one, if it ends in a vowel, you tend to put the emphasis on the second to last syllable, which also could be the first syllable, like in uno. Everybody say uno.
Uno.
The first word in bold there, which is the number one in Spanish. The emphasis is on the u. Uno. Uno. Okay. Nueve.
Nueve.
Carlos.
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 Examen.
Examen.
Okay. Can you hear the emphasis on the syllables based on the rule? Gracias. So the second rule they give, words that end in a consonant, and don't worry, we'll have plenty of time to practice these. And I'm overemphasizing a little bit with uno or nueve, just so you can hear the syllables that it's going, the emphasis is being placed on. So the second rule is that words that end in a consonant other than N or S are stressed on the last syllable. So if it ends in a vowel, the emphasis is one syllable back. If it ends in a consonant, it's on the last one. And the example they give here is comer.
Comer.
Comer, which is to
Comer.
eat. Right? That means to eat. It's the verb to eat. Okay. Again, it's good to have this as a guide. There's always exceptions, as there are in every language, but you can always refer back to this, right? Because you should have access to these. So we'll try speaking a little bit now, and the majority of the rest of the class will be doing exercises speaking back and forth in pairs. But I'll be playing the role, and we'll just kind of go down the list and we can speak back and forth. But like when you were a child, you were taught common phrases, like your first word was probably mom or dad or ma or da or something to that effect, right? So you learn to mimic sounds before you ever learn to read or how to spell or what letters were or how to write them. So we'll start similarly, right? We saw the alphabet to get an idea of pronunciation. So now we'll try reading and speaking a little bit in Spanish. One of the best ways to do that is how to say hi. A smile, a wave, and a kind gesture, like saying hola, can go a long way, right? To show that you're you want to speak to somebody, you know, that you recognize them and you want to say hi, right? It's just friendly. So let's try these together. Hola,
Hola.
Hola.
right? Emphasis on the O because it ends in a vowel. So hola
Hola.
means hello, hi. It's a very common greeting. Hello, hi. Adios.
Adios.
See the accent on the I? Adios.
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 Dios.
Bye. So if you say, what we'll do in a second is we'll practice an exchange back and forth. But after you say hello, another common one, or just to say good morning, is buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Yes.
That's good morning. So just like in English, you would say good afternoon, you could say buenos tardes.
Tarde.
Buenos tardes.
Buenas tardes.
And if you
Buenas.
say buenas
Buenas
tardes,
tardes.
Buenas tardes.
like the afternoons are a feminine thing, so we have to change it. Buenas tardes. That's something you'll find in Spanish that is more difficult. We're not going to get into it today, but we'll learn about proper
Oh, the
spelling and
masculine,
pronunciation
feminine thing.
based on whether what you're talking about is considered masculine or feminine. Okay, and there's rules to follow. And if you want to say good night, what's the last one?
Buenas
Buenas
noches.
noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. That's good night. Okay, so let's try those again. Hola.
Hola.
Buenos días.
Buenos
Buenos
días.
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 Buenas tardes.
Buenas
Buenas
tardes.
tardes.
Muy bien. Buenas noches.
Buenas
Buenas
noches.
noches.
Adiós.
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 Very good. Muy bien. Does everybody understand what I'm saying when I say muy bien?
Very good.
Yes. Very good.
Very good.
Very good.
And
From-
also
from
notice
that-
the punctuation, guys, in Spanish, there's double.
Upside down exclamation marks.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
haven't
love
seen-
it.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of Spanish doing that because in English we have to read the full sentence before we know whether it's an exclamatory, interrogatory, declarative statement. But in Spanish, they tell you up front.
Yep.
They get you prepared.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Well, just if you think about it in Spanish or in English, if you said, I'm hungry, that could be declarative. Or you could say, I'm starving. And that could be an emphatic statement. Well, in Spanish, you could say, tengo sed. And that would be, well, I'm thirsty, I think. Or you could say, you have much thirst. I forget it. I'm drawing a blank right now, but it would be an emphatic statement and you would change the punctuation.
Yeah.
Just like Senora Miriam was saying. So we'll learn some of those later, but I mean, you've already picked up on it. If it is an emphatic statement, like you are happy to see someone, you can put an upside down punctuation mark at the beginning. And when it is read, they will know that exactly what type of statement it is.
Mhm.
Claro. Okay, so just a little bit more on that, and to expand on it a little bit, we know that it's based on time. I don't know that there, Senora Miriam, any kind of conventions for what time of the day would be more appropriate, like to the hour, but
Tardes is usually after lunch. Midday. Anything before lunch is dias. Is how I grew up. Yeah.
Yeah. Likewise, that's how I
Yeah.
was taught as well.
And same thing with night when it's dark. Then it's noches.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
So right now it's tardes.
So right now would be tardes, correct?
Exactamente.
Mhm.
Very good. So a few other sayings on top of those. ¿Cómo estás? Has anyone ever heard that
How
one
are
before?
you?
Yeah. Or, yeah.
How are you? Yep. Do you see the punctuation at the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
You know it's a question before you even read it. A common response to that, which we've already, muy bien, gracias. Very well, thank you. I learned a couple other, I guess they're more colloquialisms, but they're responses to ¿Cómo estás? That you could use at work when you're at work and you know you're at work. If someone asks you, ¿Cómo estás? You could say, más o menos, which means more or less. It's like, I'm at work, you know, I'm here, you know, I'm okay is kind of what
It's
that means.
happening.
I'm all right. In response, if someone asked you how you were doing, it's polite to ask how they're doing, right? So in Spanish, in response, you could say, if someone asked you, ¿Cómo estás? And you said, muy bien, gracias. You could immediately follow with, ¿y usted? Or, ¿y
¿Y
tú?
usted?
Would that be E usted or ye usted?
Y. Right. So I can see your confusion there, Levi. Y, the Y, when you read it, is E. Just like the I is pronounced E. But what the letter Y means when it stands alone is and. If you translate it, it just means and.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
if something is black and white, it's negro y blanca. Black and white. Right. So E, whenever you see it, means and in a sentence. So what this really means is a short way of asking how they're doing too. ¿Cómo estás? Muy bien, gracias. ¿Y tú? Or ¿y usted? And it means I'm doing pretty good. How are you? So it's a polite way of asking how they're doing as well. Now you heard Señora Miriam yo say tú. ¿Y tú?
Tú means you.
That's right. You will find that there is a informal and a formal speak in Spanish when you, and it's I was taught it's a form of respect to use usted. Like usted means you, but it's a polite form. It's a like almost like saying sir or ma'am.
Correct. It's exactly it.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
we wouldn't say ma'am and sir to your friends, right? So that's how we were taught. Adults, our elders are always usted, our parents always usted. Anyone younger than like young would be tú.
I thought like senor was sir.
That's the literal translation, but what do you see senor or senora in that statement?
Oh, no.
It's missing, right? So the context there is how that the word they chose to use, the noun there, which is usted, which, like I said, like Senora Miriam explained, is the polite form, right? It's the sir or ma'am version of you when you're talking to someone. Tú is what you use with your friends, right? It's the familiar or informal word. And tú is spelled T-U. Okay. So and I think you'll see that in the conversational examples here. We'll do some dialogue back and forth. Somebody can volunteer to be Sophia or Raphael, and we'll go back and forth, but I think you'll find that they're using the tú or the familiar form, right? So real quick, somebody go through the alphabet for me. Desi.
B, C, Ch,
Hold on. Emma, stop. Desi, you've
Okay.
already done it, Em.
A, B, C, J, D, E, F, H, H, E, J, K, L, E, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, R. Oh man, I don't like rolling my R's. R, S, T, U, B, double, X, Y, Z.
Muy bien, muy bien.
The Spanish language
Bravo.
really likes E's.
But A's, right? They pronounce them A's. Muy bien. It's not easy the first time you do it. You literally have to, just like developing an accent, you have to train your tongue how to work to pronounce the letters and the syllables correctly. So very good for trying. Thank you. All right, let's try some of these. Let's see. All right, Em, let's you and I practice. And I'll be Raphael, or the kid on the left. Okay, you ready?
Mhm.
Hola, Sofía.
Hola, Rafael.
¿Cómo estás?
Estoy bien.
¿Y tú?
¿Y
Oh,
tú?
that's you. Sorry. We switched now, sorry. Estoy feliz.
¿Por qué?
Porque tengo 3 dulces. ¿Quieres uno?
Sí, por favor. Gracias, Rafael.
De nada, Sofía. Adiós, Sofía.
Adiós, Rafael.
Very good. Well done. First time through. We did not practice that ahead of time, I promise.
Very good.
Well done. Good pronunciations. Let's walk through that a little bit before we queue up someone else, because there's actually some new words in there that we hadn't seen yet, right? We hadn't seen
I have 3 candies.
estoy bien. Yeah, let's start with that. So estoy bien just means I'm good, right? Before, all we saw was muy bien, which is gracias. But estoy bien is a formal way to say I am good, or like I'm not happy. He says, later you see Rafael say estoy feliz, and feliz means happy. That's the actual word for happy. Bien just means good. I'm good.
Feliz Navidad.
Exactly. Merry Christmas. Navidad is Christmas. So happy Christmas. Should we be saying happy Christmas? Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
So here we see another few words. When Sophia asks Rafael, ¿por qué? What is she asking?
Why?
Why?
Yeah, why? ¿Por qué? So the literal translation of that is for why. For why are you
For
happy?
why?
That's what she's asking.
Or
Por means for, right? And que mean why. Okay. But then you see them in the next sentence over put together with no accent. ¿Por qué? Which means because. So to me, I always found it funny. ¿Por qué is why? ¿Por qué? Because. So if someone asks you ¿por qué? And a parent's response would typically would say ¿por qué? Because, and it's going to be followed with I said so. But
How do you
So-
say it in
¿Por
Spanish?
qué? ¿Por qué?
see, there was a question. Grace, was that you or Lily?
You go first, Lily.
Huh?
I think it was you, Grace.
Okay. How do you say because I said so in Spanish?
¿Por qué yo digo? It's the present form.
Porque yo digo, porque lo digo.
Because I said it, yeah. ¿Por qué lo digo? Because I said it. That's,
Thank you.
have you heard? You've never heard anything like that before, have you?
I have not.
Because I said so.
I have heard it in English. I have not heard it in Spanish.
I knew I became a parent the first time it came out of my mouth, because I have said it before. And then I knew I had become a parent. because I heard it growing up a lot. Okay. Porque tengo tres dulces. Can everybody say that one?
Porque
Dulces.
tengo tres
Yes,
dulces.
Ducles.
Dulces. Dulces.
Dulces.
Very good.
Dulces.
The duel says.
Dulces. Practice the pronunciation, or you're gonna
Dulces.
go. The three what? You're gonna look at you like I don't understand. Porque tengo tres dulces? Because tengo is I have. In Spanish, you conjugate the verb to
One word can mean
the-
like two words in
subject.
Spanish.
Well, no, it's the root form is tener. 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 That's the root form that means to have. Now, depending on who has, I have, you have, they have, we have, or there's some other ones. You change the way the verb is spelled. That's called conjugating the verb. So if I say tengo, that means I have. You could also say porque yo tengo tres dulces, which means because I have 3 candies. However, because tengo can only mean I have, you don't have to put yo in there. You don't have to say because I have. It's implied in the way tango is spelled. It's the conjugation of the verb that can tell you what the subject is. So, porque tengo tres dulces means, can only mean because I have 3 candies. If you wanted to say, he's happy because we have 3 candies, he would say, porque tenemos tres dulces, which means because we have 3 candies, which is kind of how it works out because he gives her a candy. So, so we'll see more of that later. It's really you learn the rules around how to conjugate verbs, how their spelling and pronunciation changes depending on who's doing the action. And there's really, you start by learning you build your vocabulary around what verbs mean what, and then you learn the conjugation rules. And most of the time, they're fairly easy to pick up on as far as the pattern. So, okay, I think we got that one. Here's another one. ¿Quieres uno? Everybody say that one. ¿Quieres uno?
¿Quieres uno?
Do you want one? Anybody remember the old Taco Bell commercials? Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Oh, you
No.
just gave our age away.
Yeah, it was huge for a while. It was marketing. Taco Bell had a commercial, and their catch line was a Chihuahua, a small dog, who would just say "Yo quiero Taco Bell," which just means I want some Taco Bell, or I would like some Taco Bell, right? So quieres is just the conjugated verb asking if you would like some. So quieres dos, quieres uno, quieres un,
Would you like all of my candies?
yeah, quieres todo? Would you like them all? That'd be pretty nice of Raphael.
I
to give
have
them
no
all.
use for them. Would you like
Right.
them all?
Right. And her answer, sí, por favor. Sí is yes. So sí and no is yes and no. And por favor is please. Everybody got those okay?
Please excuse me if you hear any kids out my window.
Well, That's it.
They're playing, and I just
It's not-
heard that his freaking socks got wet.
no one can hear it, babe. But
Good.
just close the window if you need to. Okay, another one that we saw here that was a little bit different we hadn't seen was de nada. If someone says thank you, how would we respond in English? If say thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Good example. De nada literally means of nothing. Like think nothing of it. No sweat, right? So it's use it, and de nada works pretty well. It's like, oh, muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Oh, de nada, de nada. It's like, think nothing of it. My pleasure is really what you're saying. Okay, and then they say adios. So who wants to practice next?
I'll
Can I
do
do
it. I
it?
haven't done anything.
Okay, Levi.
Oh no.
Let's do, I tell you what, Levi and Lexi. Levi is Raphael, and Lexi will be Sophia.
All right. Do I start?
You're Raphael.
All right. Hola, Sofía.
Hola, Rafael.
¿Cómo estás?
Estoy bien. ¿Y tú? Sorry. ¿Y tú?
Estoy feliz.
¿Por qué?
All right. Porque tengo tres dulces. No, tres dulces. ¿Quieres uno?
Sí, por favor. Gracias, Rafael.
De nada, Sofía. Adiós, Sofía.
Adiós, Rafael.
Muy bien, muy bien. Lexi,
I can't get the hang of that tongue roll.
Well, I heard Lexi, and I think she's going to be one of those very emphatic Spanish speakers that like to emphasize
Just
that
the roll on
likes
everything.
rolling her
rolling
R.
R's that were like Raphael. Like we call that laying it
Get
on
used to it.
thick.
Any mom, sister, or my
No, well done, well done. If it takes practice, but because I really want to emphasize that the accent and the pronunciation really separate like reading words from a page from reading fluently, just like in English. It's the flow of the language means a lot. Like I'll give an example. So I took a Spanish class at the first career I worked at. It was after hours and it was voluntary. Like it was just in addition to, right? For 2 hours after work, you would go sit and they had a tutor that would teach us. And we had a guy in there who was from South Mississippi who had the strongest like Southern country accent. And on day one, we're learning pronunciation. And my Spanish teacher influenced us the same way. Pronunciation, accent is going to separate you from someone who is learning Spanish, from someone who can really speak Spanish. And she said, okay, repeat after me. ¿Cómo estás? And his response was, ¿Cómo estás? You can hear the difference, right? And I think the actual sentence was, ¿Cómo estás usted? So, which is not technically correct, but ¿Cómo está usted? And he said it with the most countrified accent. And the class just kind of went silent for a second. And we were all looking at the teacher and she just like, that's not correct.
Oh, my
It's just, it was so far away from the flow, the natural accent that comes with it. The pronunciation was so far off that if you said that, someone wouldn't really know what you were saying. They would just, you read that on a sign somewhere, didn't you? You know? So it really is. And it becomes more natural with practice. Like when you see, oh, I recognize that word. It's pronounced hola. It just starts to roll off the tongue a little bit. So, okay, who would like to go next?
Can I go?
Grace, is that you?
Yes.
Absolutely. Who would like to go with Grace? How about Lily?
Damien was raising his hand.
Okay, good. Okay, Damien, you can go. Sorry, I can't see everyone's video feed, so thank you for keeping me in check. So Damien, how about you take the role of Raphael, and Grace, you play Sophia. Sorry.
Hola, Sofía.
Hola, Rafael.
¿Cómo estás?
Estoy bien. ¿Y tú?
Estoy feliz
¿Por qué?
porque tengo 3 dulces. ¿Quieres uno?
Sí, por favor. Gracias, Rafael.
De nada, Sofía. Adiós, Sofía.
Adiós, Rafael.
Perfecto, perfecto. Muy bien, muy bien. Very well done. Who else would like to go? Let's try Lola. And
Lola isn't here, I don't think.
Oh, she left? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She had to go to a class, a voice lesson class.
Okay. Victoria, would you like to practice with me? Or Lily? Is Lily still?
Lily's here.
Yeah, Lily's still here.
Okay. How about Victoria and Lily?
Which one of y'all would like to be who?
Let's see. Victoria, take Raphael, and Lily take.
Oh,
People just
left.
dropped
People
out.
just dropped.
Oh,
There
okay.
used to be 8, now there's 6.
So I think so. I think their whole. I think all their Wi-Fi went out or something.
Yeah, their Wi-Fi went out.
Lily, are you still with us?
Yeah,
she's
she's
right
still
there.
here.
Okay. How about you take Sophia, and I'll take the role of Raphael.
I mean, I could go if you want.
Okay, Desi, yeah, more practice. Desi, take Raphael.
You get a long sentence. I know.
Hola, Sofía.
Hola, Rafael.
¿Cómo estás?
Estoy bien. ¿Y tú?
Estoy feliz.
¿Por qué?
Porque tengo 3 dulces.
Tengo 3
I can't roll my R's. ¿Quieres uno?
Sí, por favor. Gracias, Rafael.
De nada, Sofía.
And then,
Adiós, Sofía.
Adiós, Rafael.
perfecto. Muy bien, muy bien. What I've heard very good pronunciation, very good, reading from the page. Some is flowing very well, sounds like native Spanish. Just like in English, when we speak, the tone of the sentence can be detected by the listener or by your audience. So just like when we say, if we have a conversation in English, we don't say, "Hi, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. How are you? I'm doing
That's
very
Alexa.
well.
That's
thank
the
you."
Alexa.
Well, right, yeah.
That's the
We-
Alexa
we-
conversation.
We said ours to
That's the
Irish. who's
Siri
famous now.
conversation right there.
Right. So that's a good way to think about it. Siri is a robotic
An
voice.
AI.
There's
Yeah.
no inflection. It's monotone, right? That's not how real conversation, real emotion, real connection between people happens in conversation, right? So when you speak in Spanish with practice, when it comes just like you speak in English, the listener or the person talking to will be listening to the emotion in your voice and how you're speaking. And I've heard several of you do it very well. Once you get past the I'm reading new words for the first time phase, and you get into the conversational phase, you'll start to speak in Spanish just like you do in English. Like when you start to talk about why someone's feeling a certain way, you wouldn't ask them, how are you? Say, how are you? ¿Cómo estás? And they would say, estoy bien. ¿Y tú? Estoy feliz. Like, I am so excited. And I heard someone do this one really well. ¿Por qué? Like, why? You know, you can hear the emotion in their voice. That's where you'll get, right? It'll become so natural that you'll start communicating the kind of the emotion or the context of the situation and how you speak, just like you already do in English. You've just done it so much now that it's subconscious, right? You don't have to try to do it. It just comes out. Kind of like sarcasm. Sarcasm's just like that. It's emotion saying one thing, words saying another. Like, how are you? Oh, I'm great. On a page that would read, ¿Cómo estás? Muy bien. ¿Y tú? You know, like, you can do the same thing in Spanish. It's sarcasm. Estoy feliz. You know, like, I am great. Like, I'm so happy.
Just doing fine.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's the first class. Muy bien, muy bien.
Hey,
And
we
then there were
actually pretty much
6.
went for an hour this time, guys. Record.
Right. That's right. So I haven't looked I haven't looked at the second lesson, but if you know, obviously you can go back through anything you can do to expand vocabulary, specifically nouns are good. Like Grace had a couple of great questions. Hey, how do you say this? You know, ¿Por qué lo digo? Because I said, you know, oh, okay, well, anything you can do to expose yourself to new words in another language just helps build your vocabulary. Because I promise there's some in Spanish that are very alike, like carro, a car, and there's some that are completely different. Dulce. How do we? That means candy. Okay, sure.
Sure.
Like, there's going to be some new words, and the only way to really learn them is through familiarization and practice. So the more you see them, the more you'll learn. All right, planta. You
I
know?
have 3 machinery refined candy bulbs in these plastic wrappers.
I don't know
I mean,
about
there
that.
is so if you go on Minecraft, Bedrock Edition, there is a free mod that starts teaching you some words in Spanish
And French
So,
and German.
there's also French and German, but right now we're just focusing on Spanish. That's not multi-language right now.
I took Spanish for 4 years and practiced a little outside of it. I'm not fluent by any means. I know the basics, which is why I'm kind of doing this. I also tried German at one point, and let me tell you what, Spanish is probably a better starting point.
Yeah.
It's
More
very,
people speak it for one.
yeah, right. In exact
And-
where you live, you will
and then-
see Spanish. You will see like packaging up here. So government regulations will mandate what languages have to be on a package. In the United States, Spanish is on a lot of packaging. There's English and then there's Spanish right below it. So that's a great way to practice. I joke, but I was sent to Russia for business on a trip. And on the way over there, I knew absolutely no Russian. So I started looking at the safety cards that are in the back of an airplane seat and picking out words in Russian that were also in English because they had English and Russian. And I learned a little bit of Russian that way. You do the same thing in Spanish or up here in French. The government up here says anything that is on a store shelf has to have English on one side and French on the other. So you can learn a lot that way. But anything you can do to expose yourself to more vocabulary, more words, even if you don't know them, you can write them down and look them up because Google Translate is a wonderful thing. So, well done. I know it's getting late in the evening and everybody wants to knock off for the day, so I won't keep you any longer. Awesome job, and we'll see you next time.
Gracias,
todos.
profe.
Yep. Now
Adios.
for virology.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
That's
sir.
Practicando mucho.
Bye.
Adios.
Oh, it's still recording.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's still recording.